Alright, hello you lovelies and welcome to This Week in Comics. We're going to be diving into all the biggest news from comics this week, as well as my favorite comics from last week, and previewing this week's books. This week in the news is a little tricky because we're in between San Diego Comic-Con and D23, so it's lighter on the news, but I do want to dive into some stuff with Deadpool behind the scenes, some box office, a little Cape Crusader news, as well as give my final D23 predictions. If you're new to this page, I read about 50 to 70 comics a week, and I break down my top 9, trying to pick the most accessible ones for you to get people into actual comic stores and reading the actual comics. So you don't have to read 70. I try to give you the 9 I think you might dig, as well as previewing the books that week at the comic store and breaking down all the biggest news. Without further ado, this is This Week in Comics.
Let's do the list. Spider-Man.
Guilty.
The Incredible Hulk.
Afraid so.
Oh man, this is so cool. The X-Men.
Now that you mention it.
Alright, for our first bit of news before we get into all the Deadpool stuff, we have confirmation that Batman the Caped Crusader is officially getting a season 2. Now, this is an Amazon Prime show now because HBO Max sold the rights to the show, sold the entirety of the show back when things were merging and all the tax craziness and the Batgirl stuff, so this will continue over on Amazon Prime. Now, I personally haven't seen it. I might be covering it in a Real Reject, so I'm trying not to watch it in case I react to it, but I hear people are liking it. It currently has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, as well as, I believe, a 7.5 over on IMDb, so pretty strong. It's from the creative team from the old original one. Bruce Timm is show running again, and it has producers like Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams, so it's been well regarded so far. I'm curious what you think. Let me know down in the comments. Which brings us over to Deadpool. Now, we knew this was going to be huge, but it's still so special to see these records get broken with these beloved characters. This is going to be full spoilers for Deadpool. If you somehow haven't seen it, please go, and then come back. Let's talk first about the behind the scenes. I love the fact that this is getting treated like a giant play. Like, if you've ever been in a play, often you write letters to your co-stars after, you kind of celebrate the overall experience, and Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy have been doing that on Instagram. They've been thanking their co-stars, they've been thanking the actors they've been directing, they've been doing all of the smaller production-y stuff, but on a grand scale using Instagram, and I think that's really, really special. Not only have we seen this insane footage of Jennifer Garner just absolutely owning as Elektra, coming back to her own as Elektra, the training she went through, the incredible endurance she went through, like, she did some work here and she looks incredible. Like, what powerful martial arts and physicality she gained as Elektra. We also see Channing Tatum's behind the scenes stuff, him becoming Gambit again. He's always wanted to play this character. It is so special to see him get to embody this character so perfectly, and he's a dancer, so the physicality is obviously there along with the accent he trained with. It's just, that's so special to see. We also got to see Ryan Reynolds show some very specific love to Wesley Snipes. This post is delightful. This is the first of the post, and this to me really does feel like when you wrap a play and you want to thank your co-stars, he calls his old co-star from Blade Trinity Marvel Daddy, and he's right. Without Blade, we don't have the MCU. We don't have the Fox universe. We have none of this, and I just love to see these accolades given. He also made a post for Jen Garner. He also made a post for Daphne Keane. I love what he had to say for both Daphne Keane and Jennifer Garner, talking about Jennifer Garner's kindness, talking about like what a good human she is, and you should check these out. Go read them. Highly recommend. And then with Daphne Keane, honoring Logan, talking about the legacy, talking about what work she did with Q and how important it was to bring it back. And then I want to specifically dive into both Sean Levy's post to Channing Tatum, where he revealed that he was one of the directors in the mix to actually direct the Gambit movie that never got made. There were a lot of directors in the mix, but I had no idea Sean Levy was one of them, talking about how beautiful it is they got to come back together, and he did get to direct Channing Tatum as Gambit and how cool that is. And then this one here, which, man, I hope something comes of this, Ryan Reynolds talking about how Channing Tatum was born to play Gambit. And a lot of people have compared his journey, Ryan's journey, to become Deadpool that took 11 years to Channing Tatum's, which has been, I mean, like over 10 as well. And I love this love they have for the character and for each other. And this post is so special, talking about him finally being Gambit, the role he was born to play, and how he should continue. Would you guys want to see Channing Tatum continue to be Gambit? Let me know in the comments below. Personally, I really enjoyed the cheeky take. I enjoyed the physicality. I enjoyed how much he leaned into that accent that he worked on developing. And it walked this really interesting line of both being a punchline, but also serious. It did this really interesting thing, kind of like 21 Jump Street, also Channing Tatum. He's so good, especially when working with Lord Miller or with Ryan Reynolds, walking a serious, self-serious, poke fun at, but also be in the zone type of character. So I dug it. Depending on what they want to do with Gambit, I could see this working out. If they want like a dramatic Gambit, you know, that might not be the direction, but also I could see him playing the drama because Channing Tatum can. It'll just depend on the tone they want to gather, but all these posts, all these behind-the-scenes moments have been really beautiful. And then the final one we got was just this morning, where Sean Levy shared this post of Best Bubs, Ryan Reynolds, and Hugh Jackman, and I gotta say, the moment you see the cowl with nothing special effect around it, where you just have a still, it's surreal to see just how Wolverine and Deadpool this is. What an insane image. I love this so very much. Also, in the gathering of photos, he's posted this incredible one with, like, you know, his view of Elektra and Gambit and Blade and this incredible shot. Also, this one here, which just, again, seeing the cowl behind the scenes is almost more magical, because so many people are like, oh, the cowl's the whole thing CGI, or his arms are CGI. Exhibit A. This is just Hugh Jackman. Now, I'm sure there were moments where the cowl was CGI, but like seeing these moments, the behind the scenes, the amount of incredible practical really warms my heart. And we wouldn't have seen this stuff without social media. So as much as I, you know, hate social media, this is a beautiful moment to see this. Also on social media, last thing I want to talk about with this celebration of behind the scenes is this insane video of Hugh Jackman absolutely embodying Wolverine. We had one years back, and it's the greatest example of always film your behind the scenes, of Hugh Jackman running and tearing people apart and just like being Wolverine. And we got a sequel to it with Sean Levy filming his own version and his proud caption of like, yeah, I love that ADR footage too, and now I have my own. Hugh Jackman, all these years later, being the Wolverine in the ADR for that crazy side-scroller fight scene that felt like a video game. This right here is so very special as well. Actually, one more behind the scenes. I totally forgot about this, and I definitely want to share it. Not only does Hugh Jackman say one of the most iconic Wolverine lines of all time, but I love the meta-ness of Deadpool making this a Brando joke. Iconically, Marlon Brando is one of the greatest actors of all time, but just as iconic to Brando, he didn't learn his lines all the time, or a lot of the time. He had earbuds in, he literally put things on his co-stars. He put giant cards to read lines off of people, even in The Godfather, and I love that meta Deadpool allows for even those moments to get played with here, and this behind the scenes is exactly why I love the character, and I love just taking little jabs at the process and the iconography of it all, and yeah, this is delightful. Alright, over from behind the scenes to box office. We knew this was going to break a lot, if not all the box office records, but it's still so special to see it actually happening. This movie's only been out for 2 weeks, and it's the #2 movie of the year so far, and it's the #1 R-rated movie of all time. Marvel Jesus has dethroned Jesus. I love that because, well, one, I'm not much of a religious man, but two, entire churches would go to see this movie, and entire churches of our people are going to see this movie. I remember when Passion of the Christ came out, it was this crazy thing of the news would report on full congregations going, but the congregation of comic nerds is stronger. This is so special to see a character that is the most, like, only comic nerds knew this guy in the 90s. Like, Deadpool is one of us. He literally is the internet come to life. It is quite the thing to see the #1 R-rated movie of all time be Deadpool and Wolverine. It makes me so very happy. And again, it's only been out for 2 weeks. It is the #44 movie of all time. #1 R-rated, #44 release ever in the history of movies. That is absolutely insane. It is currently, as of August 6th, at the end of the day, as far as I know, that's the last day these numbers are reported from, at $407.7 million domestic. It's made almost $500 million domestically and $852 million worldwide. So it's going to crack $1 billion maybe as soon as tomorrow. I also love that how split this is, like 50-50. Half domestic, half worldwide is really special, showing the worldwide appeal of this audience, but how very American it is as well. I'm just so happy. I'm excited to report on the billion, but that's where it sits right now. $852 million, the #44 movie of all time. I'm so happy for Deadpool, and all the behind the scenes stuff is to show just the love that went into this movie, and it just feels so deserved. And a lot of people don't like the superhero stuff, and they don't see the work that goes into it. They think it's easy. All this behind the scenes stuff is showing how not easy it is, and how much love and compassion and care went into bringing these characters back to us. Whether it's Jen Gardner training for weeks, whether it's what Channing Tatum put into the character, and he couldn't watch Marvel movies, and now he's come back, and now I hope he's watched Marvel movies. But all of that makes me so happy. The Wesley Snipes Ryan Reynolds Bond that we thought was another thing for all those years, it just, yes. So excited for this to crack $1 billion, excited for all this behind the scenes stuff. Let's talk about D23. Now, D23 is this weekend. D23 is arguably Disney's fandom as far as them controlling the entirety of the narrative for 3 days, but it's also an opportunity for them to do the things they didn't do at Comic-Con, again, in their own way. There's a 2-hour presentation on Friday that is at the Honda Center, Giant Stadium. I'm going to be there, and that's going to be for everything from Star Wars to Pixar, General Disney, Marvel, all of that. And then later on in the weekend, there's a Marvel animation panel. So I do think this is going to lean heavy on TV, as we predicted forever ago, but I also think we're going to get a lot of animated, updates. I think we might even see an episode of something animated. So I wanted to give you guys my top 15 predictions in order of likelihood of what I think we're getting out of D23. The number one most, I think, obvious thing we're going to get at D23 is Daredevil. I think Daredevil is going to be the flagship of D23. I think we might get a trailer. I think it's going to be the big push. I think Daredevil is going to be their Doom moment. I think this is going to be the Downey moment of the con. Very excited to see what stuff comes out of Daredevil. On the second most likely out of the 15, number 2 is going to be Ironheart. Now, Ironheart, we've heard nothing about for a long time. I think it's going to be very important for Doom. I've seen the footage from D23 that came out literally years ago, and it does blend magic and tech, and I think that's essential for Doom, so I think they're going to need to start getting the word about Ironheart out there. I know a lot of people didn't love the character. I personally didn't love how she played in the movie, but loved Dominic Thorne's take on Ironheart, as well as I personally love the character of Ironheart as Bendis Roeder. So, didn't always work in the movie for me, just because the movie had to do a lot, and it wasn't the original idea for the movie. We had to adjust losing Chadwick, so I think this is a good opportunity for people that didn't like Ironheart to get to know her and for her to play in the greater MCU. And again, the footage at D23 looked fantastic, so I hope they can tilt the narrative on Ironheart. So I think that's the number 2 thing. Number 3, I think we get Wonder Man. I think Wonder Man is wrapped. It's Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, a dude I adore as an actor, and also one of my favorite interviews, one of my favorite people to run into in LA, one of my favorite people to have nerdy conversations with, because the dude loves this stuff. He is passionate about this stuff, and I really want to see him in the MCU get his turn to play, and I think Wonder Man's going to be really fun for him, and I'm excited. Personally, I know a lot of people have kind of written this one off, but I think that's going to be a big play at D23. And lastly, of the almost definites, my number 4 is Agatha. Agatha's out in a few weeks. Agatha's out in September. This is an event in August. I think we get a decent amount of Agatha, maybe some more story elements. I do think they're going to be pushing hard to get word of mouth out about Agatha, so that's my number 4. My number 5, I think whether in the Friday announcement or the animation announcement, I do think we get a date for X-Men 97 Season 2. I think we get a little bit of story. We might get, if there's new characters. I do think there's going to be a decently heavy X-Men presence, not just because of Deadpool and Wolverine, but because we're leading into that mutant saga that Kevin Feige keeps talking about. So I think there's going to be maybe not an X-Men movie announcement, but an X-Men 97 Season 2 to keep that buzz going, to keep X-Men on the mind. My number 6 is a Slate update. We didn't get an actual Slate update at San Diego Comic-Con. I think that was a good thing. I think that they needed to focus on the next 3 movies and really hone in and stroke some confidence and then save that big moment outside of the 3 next things for Doom. I do think now with some recalibration, maybe just, up until Doomsday, or maybe up until Secret Wars, just give us what fills in those dots. So I could see a full Slate announcement, but now we're entering that medium territory. 6 is the beginning of my maybes. So I do think we get a Slate update, but I'm not sure because I do think they're course correcting a lot of stuff. My number 7 and 8 are still in that maybe range, but I think they're on the more likely side. I do think we get a Wakanda show update, an Eyes of Wakanda update, maybe a date, as well as a Spidey freshman year update. Now, there's not only that Friday panel, like I said, but there's an entire Marvel animation panel. So it seems all but certain we're getting those 2, but it's how much. I would love to find out the date for that Spidey freshman year show. I just watched all of Spectacular Spider-Man over at Real Rejects for the first time. I own it on DVD, unopened. I had never seen it, just missed it, and it was so good. So the stakes are really high for this freshman year show. I hope we hear some stuff about it. And then Eyes of Wakanda, the writing team behind it's incredible. I cannot wait to explore that world more. So I want there to be some announcement there, because we haven't heard anything since that What If Season 2 premiere-y thing where they showed some footage. So I think they're going to be leaning into that pretty heavy at D23. Okay, so those are all of my most likelies. Now we're into the maybe it would be good optics if we get some big announcements. These are what I think they'll be. Armor Wars. We haven't heard anything about Armor Wars in quite a while. I do think that tech side of things, like I said, with Ironheart is going to be important. Also, it's effectively Iron Man 4. It's Don Cheadle's Iron Man movie. I'm curious if we get any updates there because it went from a show to a movie to nobody's talking about it. I want to know where we're at with it. Thunderbolts trailer, I'm wondering if we get the trailer that was released at San Diego Comic-Con, but fully released. Is this going to be when they debut the actual Thunderbolts trailer? I think it would make sense, but there's a chance they don't because of the redundancy of having just shown it like 2 weeks ago. From there, I think we might get the Fantastic Four suits. We might actually get to see them. We did get that previs footage. I haven't seen it yet, but they played it at San Diego Comic-Con. I wasn't in the hall, but I think maybe we get the public release of those suits because now they've been filming for a couple weeks, and I think it's a good way to keep the word about Fantastic Four going because that comes out next year somehow. Then we've got Shang Chi 2. Things have been quiet for a really long time. I think they need confirmation. I think if they have a big new thing to put on the slate or a big, we're still moving and grooving on films, because I do think it's going to be TV heavy, but if they're still talking films at all at D23, I think that Shang-Chi 2 is a likely one. Thor 4 is kind of a Hail Mary. I think at a director announcement, I think if they're gonna confirm Thor 4 as happening before Secret Wars, and honestly, I think Secret Wars is kind of a hard reset of the MCU, or at least we're picking and choosing what we're keeping. I think Thor 4 needs to happen before Secret Wars. I think that Doctor Strange 3, which is my next one, also needs to happen before Secret Wars. So those two sequels are the maybe least likely now. Maybe they do it next year at San Diego Comic-Con, but maybe they at least get them on the slate. So Thor 4, Doctor Strange 3, and Shang-Chi 2, I could see just kind of claiming their date. And the least likely, but the maybe, Blade? Do we find out if Midnight Suns is happening with Blade? Do we find out if Blade is happening with Blade? Do we get a director announcement for Blade? Is it hopefully Jordan Peele? What is going to be happening with Blade? Will they talk about it? They did not address him at all at San Diego Comic-Con. Be kind of funny following the heels of all this, Deadpool box office if we find out what our new Blade is up to, or if it's just not happening and they just quietly... Man, I love Mahershala, so I don't know. We're going to see. But that is my least likely of my probably happening. So 15 things I think will happen are in order: Daredevil, Ironheart, Wonder Man, Agatha, X-Men 97 Season 2. Would nearly guarantee those things. Next most likely, in the more than likely, a full slate update, Spidey, Wakanda, TV stuff. Those are nearly, 80% happening. And then my maybe 50-50 chance, Armor Wars, Thunderbolts trailer released to the public, Fantastic Four suits, Shang-Chi 2, Thor 4, Doc Strange 3, and Blade. Very curious how that separate animation panel goes. Do they show an episode? What's going on there? I don't know if we get a new animated show since there's so many that have been announced, but those are the things I think are coming at you at D23, and I will be there covering it. You're going to get live updates from me as they're happening, like right outside the hall. I'm going to put those over at Capes and Cowls with Christian, and then I'm going to do a full video right here, like an actual coverage, full length, like as one video of all my highlights of D23. So if you're not subscribed already, do subscribe, because I'm going to be covering everything D23 as it happens. And basically, Friday is from 7 to 9. You can expect a video here either at like 10:30, 11, so I have time to edit it, or first thing in the morning Saturday. So subscribe, like this weekend. So subscribe to this page for all your D23 updates. I'll be giving their comic precedent here. I'll be giving how I think it ties into things here. I'll be giving like the more nitty gritty, like I like to give you guys here, a little more long form footage. So please do subscribe if you're not already for my D23 coverage to come this weekend. Last bit of news, because it sucks and it ties into Disney. Disney is upping their prices again. Disney Plus is going from the current $8 a month for ads to pay $8 a month and have ads is certainly a choice. Well, it's going to 10. So from $8 to $10, $10 a month to watch ads on Disney Plus is, cable's back, you guys. It's not even actually cable because streaming doesn't pay actor residuals, so it's worse than cable, but it's back. And then for ad-free is currently $14 a month. It is going up to $16 a month. So it is going up, both are going up $2 and it just went up. So that sucks. But that is capitalism. So $16 a month to not watch ads while you watch your Disney Plus, I think starts next month. Don't love it. Here we are. And that is going to do it for the news. Let's talk about comic books themselves. The books that I love from the week of the 31st. One of the best weekend comics of the year. Excited to talk about it. These are my faves. All right, so the comics for the week of July 31st were incredible. Last Wednesday's books is one of my favorite weeks of the year. Not only did Saga come back, Department of Truth is back, and it's an Ultimate Spider-Man week. Let's dive in. First up, let's talk about the finale of Blood Hunt. Now, Blood Hunt number 5 dropped last week, and this did actually feel like it stuck the landing as an event. The event books over at Marvel and DC don't always feel like they're actually events. Sometimes they feel like they're shameless tie-ins, sometimes they feel like they lead to nothing. This one stayed an event. It felt like a movie. It did run, I think, a little long with the number of tie-ins. We're going to talk about one of the great tie-ins later on, but I think Blood Hunt ended solid enough. This was a worthwhile summer event, and I dig this issue especially. Then we've got my consistent book of the week, and I think even with this stacked of a week, this is no exception. Department of Truth 24, man. Department of Truth. This issue is about the Lee Harvey Oswald situation that's going on both in our reality and in this book's reality. It deals with what it means to make something true, what it means to believe something more than the actual proof of a thing, what it means to cause this tectonic shift in belief. This book is genius. It is about basically X-Files-esque organization that controls the narrative in a world where if enough people believe in something, it becomes true. If enough people believe in Sasquatch, the Sasquatch can walk by. It's the belief that makes something true, and this is dealing with the Kennedy assassination. What an insane story. The second issue back in the world of Department of Truth. I missed this book so much. What an issue. Speaking of what an issue, Fantastic Four 22. Maybe the best tie-in to Blood Hunt. Fantastic Four, this is my favorite run. This 22 issues so far run, start with issue 1, go back to the beginning, it's all been exceptional. But this tie-in to Blood Hunt is actually just as good as the rest of the run. That does not usually happen with tie-ins. They make it about the family, they use Reed Richards' knowledge, they make the vampire element actually seem plausible to the book outside of Blood Hunt. This issue is incredible. I love Reed here. I love what they're able to do, making it part of the greater Marvel Universe, but also feeling like its own contained book. This is how you do a tie-in. This is like, look at this as an example, Marvel. My God, this was a good issue. Then we've got Grommets number 3. Now, Grommets is a slice-of-life skateboarding book. It feels like hanging out with friends, but it's set in the 80s, so it's also so much nostalgia, so much like a bygone era of flippant fun. Obviously, there are consequences to things, and obviously there were then too, but with nostalgia, we always think things as better, and this book is so far just a joy. It feels like playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It feels like watching 80s movies. It feels like a vacation, and I need that book sometimes, and Grommets is absolutely delivering there. Then we've got Knights number 9. This book had fallen off a little for me with 7 and 8. It is back. I love this weird cast of characters. I love that I never know what an issue is going to do, and I've always found it funny, but here the heart has kind of returned. The caring about these characters, like I'm back to being very invested. Can't really describe this book, but an odd mix of people and supernatural entities all hang out, and it's like a slumber party, but a little bit more adult and always insane. Knights is a hell of a time. And then after a year, literally 11 months since this book, Saga has returned. Saga is back, and this arc is shaping up to be much more my jam than the last. I love Saga. Like, even the last arc was better than most comics ever get to be, but I didn't love the comeback of Saga after that hiatus as much as I wanted to. This first issue, where things seem to be going, the use of Hazel, I love her 2 dialogues, what she's saying and what she's thinking. I love where things seem to be going with Alana, who's one of my favorite characters in all of comics. This feels like Saga in a real big way, and I'm so happy it's back. Saga. And my next one is kind of jarringly shocking. My top 9 reads of the week, a must-read, I don't know how this happened, but Super Pets Bite Identity Crisis. This made the list because usually animal-based books are just a cash grab, or it's, you know, a younger skewing book that feels like it's written very young. This book actually ties into canon. This is a great use of Bitewing, Nightwing's dog. This actually has so much heart, it feels like Homeward Bound. Like, it's got animal-based heart, but it's also, Spidey, the perfect timing for you to be here, but it also really has a cool story using a lot of the iconic animals in DC. There's a lot of animals in DC that have lots of rich history and lore. This one uses that well. There's a couple anthology books after, like there's little tidbit stories after the main story, and those feel a little bit more kitschy, but the main story here is so good it made the top 9. Bite Identity Crisis, who knew? Then we've got Ultimate Spider-Man number 7. You guys know how much I love this book. It is the modern retelling of Spider-Man lore with today's technology, today's concepts, today's ideals, and this book is such an interesting one because Arc 1 obviously has to introduce all these characters. Arc 2 can start to play with lore a little bit differently, and what Hickman's doing here, I love. The suits get described in a certain way in this issue, and that allows for 2 huge story elements. Harry Osborn and his father issues and voices in his head, and Peter Parker's own speech bubbles, mental ideas, talking to himself plays in this so interestingly. I don't want to give it away, but my God, I love this book. Check this out. If you missed the first volume, I think the trade drops next month, but you can pick up just this issue and join this new arc. good jumping on point, read Ultimate Spider-Man. And my last book of the week is going to be X-Force #1. I'm always happy to have X-Force back. I'm always happy to have a Deadpool book. This is post-Krakoa, great jumping on point, really clean #1, really beautiful world of X-Men they're building, and really fun Deadpool here, as well as the whole cast of characters. It's an assassin team of murderous X-Men. It's a darker, R-rated X-Men. That's what X-Force is. They're the Mercs. This plays around with that really well, and I love the world they're building, and I love Forge so much, and they're really letting Forge shine here. So, those are my overall favorite 9 books of the week. Those are the books I read last week that I absolutely adored. It was one of the best weeks in comics of the year so far. Did you read any of those? Let me know in the comments below. What did you love last week? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a comic book store conversation. But let's also talk about the books that are at your local comic shop today, the week of the 7th. Of somehow August. These are the books I'm looking forward to. Bit of a smaller week this week from everybody, so Image actually has the most new comics out for the week, which might be a first to be over Marvel and DC. From Image, the ones I'm looking forward to most are Cowl 1964 #1, The Deviant #7. I've loved that whole run. It is such a hard read, such an emotional read, but such a good read from James Tynion IV. We've also got from Image Comics Public Domain #7, which is Chip Zdarsky's What About the Comic Industry in This Age of Comic Book Movies Do You Not Know, with a family drama, and I really love playing around in that lore. Scarlet #3 I'm also really excited to check out. From Marvel Comics, I'm excited to check out Avengers #17, Blood Hunters #1, Daredevil #12, Doctor Strange #18, The Incredible Hulk 15, Spectacular Spider-Man from the writer of Spectacular Spider-Man, and it's Miles and Peter teaming up, #6. We've also got Spider-Man Black Suit and Blood kicking off #1 there. We've got Spider-Man Reign #2, Star Wars Inquisitors 2, Star Wars The High Republic 10, Ultimate Black Panther #7, Uncanny X-Men #1, great jumping on point, continuing this new birth of X-Men, really excited for that one. Venom War #1, a nice big fall event. Spooky season is here, so we're going Venom #1, Venom War #1, apologies, and Wolverine Deep Cut #2. From DC Comics, we've got Absolute Power #2, really excited for that, enjoying that event over there. Batman #151 with Bizarro as a twist. Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries #8, Batman and Robin Howard Summer Breakdown #2, great all-ages book, really good kid book if you've got kids wanting to get into Batman. Birds of Prey #12, Blue Beetle #11, The Boy Wonder #4, Gotham City Sirens #1, new jumping on point for the Sirens over there. Kneel Before Zod #8, My Adventures of Superman #3. If you like the Jack Quaid voice Superman show, this is that canon, that lore, that world. Scooby-Doo Where Are You 129, and Shazam #14. Then over from Boom Studios, I am most excited for A Vicious Circle #3. This is from Mattson Tomlin, the guy that's writing The Batman 2, the guy that writes Berserker over at Boom as well. But it's a really interesting time travel tale, and the art is absolutely stunning. And then that is going to do it for this week. A bit of a smaller week. There's some cool stuff at Dark Horse Dynamite, but nothing on my must-read list. So those are my must-reads this week. Let me know what you're going to be checking out at your local comic shop. Let me know what you thought of this video. Please like, please subscribe if you're new to this page, and please let's have a conversation in the comments. Now, this week's homework is, what do you want to see out of D23? D23 is either just happened or within hours of you watching this video. Friday night is the big What's to Come panel, and then Saturday is the big animation panel. What do you want to see out of D23? What are your top 3 predictions? So, either what you want or what are your predictions? Let me know in the comments below. Excited to talk to you guys there. Much love. We'll see you next week. And this week, I'm going to be seeing Kneecap, the movie, at some point, as well as Alien, and as soon as the embargo drops for Alien, review to come on this page. So, eyes peeled for Kneecap, Alien, and all sorts of comic-y stuff. Much love, y'all. See you soon.